Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is a show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between, and before I get started, I do have a new camera, so hopefully you guys like that. But also, we do have the viewer's pick of the week at the end of the video, so in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured on the episode. But let's get started. I have 9 books. It's actually not that many titles this week, and number 9 for me is What If Galactus Transformed Spider-Gwen. I haven't been reading many of these what if Galactus stories. I don't know if they're all connected. Sometimes they are. A good what if in general gives us a beginning, middle, and end type story that a one-shot be like, hey, I've never read Spider-Gwen. I kind of want to know who this character is and give us a good kind of character story. Being self-contained, but all while kind of making you like, I want more from this character, and I don't feel like that happened here. I feel like they had a little bit more of the medieval times aspect of it, which I thought was an interesting choice for a Galactus story, but overall it just didn't grab me as I wanted to. I thought the artwork could have been stronger for this one as well, so giving that one 2 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is West Coast Avengers issue 3. So this book, I've been wanting to like. I like the Rouster, I like Spider-Woman, I like Firestar. But I think my biggest problem has been that I felt like more of the continuation of that Iron Man book that I couldn't really get into, and less of a West Coast Avengers book. And same thing for this issue, kind of focusing more on Ultron than the characters like Firestar or Spider-Woman who don't have their own series already. So overall, giving that one 2 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is X-Men issue 10. I want to like this series because I enjoyed that crossover, but I just enjoy the other X-Men titles more. It just isn't my vibe as much. It just is bogged down more than I want it to be. I think there's some interesting elements with Cyclops in the end and him talking to this guy about mutants and his wife. I thought that was cool, but it takes so long to get to that point. There isn't that excitement level for me as I want with the flagship X-Men book, where I feel like the flagship more has become the Uncanny X-Men title. So overall, giving that one 2 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Hornsby and Halo issue 3. I like this book. It is very slow. You know, if you're thinking they're gonna be Hornsby and Halo, that they're friends or anything, you're not getting that here. They hardly know who they are. It's more of a mystery to them and to us, which I kind of like the vibe. It does feel old school, feels kind of more early 2000s, late 90s type comic book, which is kind of a fun vibe. But I'm also curious what this looks like 3 issues from now. Is it continuously going to be the slow burn? Because then I'm like, all right, I just kind of want to get to the meat. I want to get to what this means to be a devil character, an angel character, and we're just not there yet. But I hope things start to pick up a little bit more. But I think by issue 3, it's okay. It's just once we get to 6 and 7, I wonder how long you're going to capture your audience. But the artwork is really good for this one, and that's been very consistent. And I do like a good YA story. All right, moving on to number 5, which is You Never Heard of Me, issue 2. Again, going back to, I like a just old school teenage story, and this provides that to me. Person has powers, he connects with this other girl in school that they see this vision of them, and they get to become friends along the way. I wanted even more from their friendship, and I'm curious to see where that's going to go in the next issues, but I liked how, you know, the teenage YA aspect kind of just ensued as the issue is going on. There's the bully. They're trying to deal with the bully. The artwork is solid for this one. I will say there's stuff on the cover, though, that I wanted to happen. Like, there's this queer romance, and there's all this drama that didn't really happen in the issue, so I hope to see that more as the series goes on and we get more from that friendship. So, overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Deadpool issue 10. I like this book. I do think it's a little wordy at times, but I enjoy just seeing father and daughter fighting alongside each other. Good art, good humor, and I like the promise of this Miles Morales crossover because the same writer who writes this book also writes Miles Morales, so it'll be fun to see, A, if it gets people to read Miles Morales and vice versa, and what type of chaos will ensue because of it. But I just like the character work. I enjoy just seeing their relationship blossom now that Deadpool's back, and yes, Deadpool wasn't gone for very long, but that's a very superhero thing to do, and I honestly think the story is more interesting with them interacting rather than them not interacting. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and then it's number 4. All right, moving on to number 3. And that is the Seasons issue 1. This one I thought was really slow at first. I was like, okay, so this girl's getting this letter. It's like kind of lasting a while. But it really was to kind of create ambiance. I still do think it lasted a little bit longer than it needed to. But then you get introduced to the sister who is in a completely different tone and almost genre of her own and says, hey, keep safe. Your world might turn into what looks like mine. So I like that contrast of this bright and cheery world compared to what her sister's going through. And obviously we're probably going to meet the other sisters as well, and we've been kind of having mystery around that in this issue. But yeah, I love the contrast. I love the art here. It's the same artist who did Outcast, so who usually does a lot of darker styled artwork, so it's cool to kind of see that bright and darkness here. But it definitely gave me enough to want to read more. I just don't know if it was like the perfect first issue, but it's an interesting story. So giving that 3.5 stars, and then it's number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Green Lantern issue 19. I honestly think this could have been my pick of the week if the art was a little bit stronger. It just wasn't my style, but I really like the story. I love Carol and Hal, seeing where their relationship is going, but then also the progression of the fractured spectrum and growing what we know about the mythology of Green Lantern, I think is really important. And it just feels like they're doing something different with the Green Lantern, all while just bringing character story at the forefront and having everyone moving. You know, Carol dealing with her learning to be a hero in the Justice League, and then Hal also having to deal with the Saras guy who is also connected to Carol, which hopefully Carol will come into the fold after a while, because I don't want Hal to like fight Carol's battles, but I don't think that's going to happen in this book. But yeah, great setup, and I just love everything that's going on with Green Lantern right now. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is my topic of the video, and that is Superman Lex Luthor special. Should Lex Luthor become a villain again? It's been an interesting trend for superheroes lately. You have Green Goblin, who was a good guy, who was kind of one of my favorite stories from Spider-Man right now. It was one of, I think, the things that felt a little different about Amazing Spider-Man, and like that nagging in his brain of like, oh, am I going to be bad? Am I going to be good? Like, you know, when's time going to run out? And it's a very similar story here with Lex Luthor, where he doesn't remember anything. He's like, I feel bad that I was a bad guy. And then like little by little, he learns how to play the piano again. You're like, ooh, he's going to be bad. I'm curious about the slow burn. That's what I want to see, is this conflict of, I could be this person, but I am this person, and this kind of inner demons that I think you can really play out, that I think this book's going to do a really good job with. And I love the setup here. And this is what I'm talking about with one-shots. I like where, do you necessarily need to read this issue? No, I'm sure the regular book is going to pick up on a lot of the same things that were drawn here, but this is a character-driven book where you get a lot more because you've read this. And you get a little teaser where you're like, oh, I know before the rest of the crew knows that Lex Luthor's gonna probably become a villain again. And I want to see something different with that too, because obviously mustache twirling Lex Luthor, we've seen it a lot. So I want to see what dimensions can be brought because he was a good guy now turning into a bad guy again. And how long it's going to take. Is it going to be like flip of the switch, he's a bad guy again? Or is it going to be, again, that slow burn that I'm kind of looking for? But I thought this was a really solid issue. Again, it's a way to do a one-shot. I just think Superman is the perfect superhero book right now. If you're looking for one superhero book, I really recommend Superman. And honestly, get all the specials too. They've been really good. And I think Eddie Barrow's artwork was kind of perfect for the darker side of this book. So that is my number 1 pick. I gave that 4 stars. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week was. And last week's pick of the week was Archie is Mr. Justice issue 2. And here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.